My name is Kimberly Cato, and I'm the registered psychotherapist and CEO of True Roots Counseling Services, where we purpose to come alongside people who are overwhelmed and perhaps blindsided by life altering circumstances and give them tools and strategies designed to help them, you know, transform their trauma into triumph. Hi, y'all. In honor of the 1 year anniversary of CATO'S Cannabis Chronicles, um, I had to reach out to my friend Debi Facey and just say, hey, it's October 2nd, and a year ago, we were doing the very first episode of Cato's Cannabis Chronicles. Do you want to come back and chat and just catch up and see what's happened in your world and what's happened in my world and what's happened in the world of cannabis in this last year? And
No. Actually, no, I do not. First of all, thank you so much for just inviting me back.
yeah,
It's been, I want to say, a great whirlwind of amazing, but yet progressiveness that I feel that has been happening.
excellent.
And throughout this whole year, wow, a year, it feels like 7 years actually, just
Yeah,
because with the amount of um, sadness that
yeah,
has happened. And that's one thing that I think, especially for myself, and I think I know, is sadness is something that we are all facing, especially when I have to say COVID happened, but even prior to. So life has been a very fun roller coaster,
okay.
especially when it comes to just life. Cannabis, we're evolving, but
Yeah.
slowly.
Um, what do you mean when you say sadness? Define sadness for me.
Oh, the sadness, the sadness. So unfortunately, I think that's like the responsible way of saying it, but I had lost my father
Okay.
in the beginning of this year, actually, January 3rd. And it was uh, very sudden. Um, None of us were expecting it. So I apologize for like the suddenness because it was just a, it was just such a sudden, not really understanding sort of situation, um, especially when COVID was kind of just starting
Yeah.
to kind of be known. So it was it was a sad confusion as to what really happened to my father,
Yeah.
just due to the fact that he was sick. We
Yeah.
were all kind of sick. We all had the flu. At least that's what we thought. Um, we all slowly got better, and it just had happened that New Year's Eve he had gone into the hospital and ended up passing away the third.
Okay.
Um, so that has been a big, I want to say, almost like concrete cement block when it
Absolutely.
comes to understanding now this COVID trauma that's now going to be following, because I'm 32 and I've already done the H1N1 and I have done SARS and I have
Yeah.
unfortunately done 9/11 and had the backtrack to the repercussions from the fateful tsunamis and the fires. But this is probably the most personal when it comes to closeness,
Yeah.
as in having to deal with any sort of traumatic pandemic loss ever.
So sorry to cut you, but so your dad's passing, was it COVID related?
We don't know,
Okay.
just due to the fact that we didn't get an autopsy. Also, the
Yeah.
fact that with his body, how everything happened, it just like immediately shut down. So when I had ended up actually going to the hospital, he was already on thing for the kidney failure.
Right.
So he wasn't awake when I saw him. And we had cremated him just like we did our mother. So we never really got to know. News obviously stated how COVID didn't hit until February, but don't want to say my heart, but I truly feel as if COVID did appear in Ontario around November. I think it
just wasn't documented or followed up with and commonly well known. But you know, things that were otherwise identified as flu and these sort of things, but they had an edge that was not flu symptom like.
Exactly.
And so, but they weren't tracking COVID per se back in November.
And I think also, which unfortunate was too, is that they weren't even tracking. I think what happens when it comes to the flus, that they should be tracking flus, and they should be tracking the genetics of the flus that are coming out so far, whichever year, because that would help differentiate what a flu is and something else. Pneumonia is easy to depict. You know, we know when we have a I want to say, not even just the flu, but when we have migraines or anything else that is very prominent, strokes, what have us. But when it comes to the flu, it's like a cold, or it's allergies, or it's this, or it's that. And I feel like when our sinuses are being affected, it should be something that's notified, because COVID, in my heart, I feel as if it hit, and that's what my father passed away from. It was too quick of a death for it to be natural. Especially when it came to doctors not being able to help him. It was too fast. And I found, even when I was sick in November, I thought I was going to die from my flu. Like, I thought that my flu was the worst. I thought I was dying. And I've never felt that way before. It lasted probably around 4 or 5 days, but I did what my parents taught us to do, which is sweat it out. So, so I wrapped myself up. Exactly. Wrapped myself up, did that rum bay leaf rub, did everything that I could in the name of anything that I've known to be able to get myself better. And even till this day, it's still, I feel fine, but it still lingers in my mind. Like, was that a COVID symptom, or was that a flu? And
not wanting, I'm going to be, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, but I'm going to be sort of leading the conversation in certain areas. And so I might cut you off just to lead down a different leg of the path, because I don't want to get stuck in COVID and was this COVID, was this not?
Who cares?
I want to move into COVID generally speaking, not just specific to your symptoms, but how has COVID impacted two things? Number one, your life, and number two, the way you engage with cannabis. Has it impacted your life and the way you engage with cannabis?
It has. That's a great question. Those are great questions, because I feel like those are things that I don't ask myself enough.
Okay.
And COVID has affected me dramatically. And it's affected my world surrounding dramatically.
Okay.
It has affected everything on a daily life and perspective.
Okay. You're freezing, and you're stuck.
And just anybody that I can still talk to. Oh, you're freezing too.
Yeah, you're freezing and you're just stuck. Interesting.
Yeah, you were stuck for a good minute while talking. Just I wasn't too sure. My basement. Go basement. But
So I lost you on COVID just as soon as you started saying COVID has impacted you.
So COVID was, for me, probably the most impactful when it came to me actually getting to understand what my next move was. I decided to move out of my parents' place. That's why I found a place during COVID, which was very different.
Yeah.
That's when I was learning about really the whole way that we had to do, I guess, more interactions, which was socially over the internet.
Okay.
And that was something that I was not, I'm always a people person. I like to see people in person. I like to interact with them. And it was hard.
So the transition from face-to-face to online and social distancing and all that stuff really impacted.
And it is still.
Yeah.
Even though I'm an extrovert but introvert, I don't like being alone.
Yeah.
I don't like not seeing people. I don't like, and I'm using the word don't like and not hate because it's not that I hate not being alone. I just really prefer being around people.
Yeah.
And I prefer seeing someone's face. And being someone that suffers from mental health, I have to be honest, it is a very scary situation when you go out and you cannot see someone's face.
Yeah.
And the only thing you could see are their eyes.
Yeah.
And eyes can tell you anything.
Yeah.
And being the type of person that I am, I don't trust with the eyes because the eyes are deceiving. And I feel COVID has created obviously obstacles, but almost new learning curves for people that don't know how to deal with that on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And how to get around that. But I feel like that's also made it very easy for me to avoid going outside. Or avoid going to certain places, especially supermarkets. I think everyone's a robber. It's just it's scary because when you deal with mental health and you feel like you're alone and then you have to be alone because you're forced to be alone, it doesn't help the way that your mind has started to think positively or had started to create a new way of living. Because that, I have to say, I stopped. When it came to therapy, when it came to prescriptions, everything just became a whirlwind of what am I going to do now? Am I going to be okay? And I think that's for everyone. That's not just for me. I feel anybody that is dealing with that. And when cannabis came into play, that was, I personally wasn't as concerned because I still had my outlets, but I was concerned for everyone who does not have the proper outlet because the outlets also had to diminish. It was on a halt whether or not cannabis was even an essential service or not. And when they made it an essential service, to me, I actually did kind of laugh a little moment because I was shocked that they had made it an essential service, but I was happy that they did because the fact that what do you expect us to do? And that's the scary part. Even as I'm talking to you, my anxiety is going up and all I want to do is just get a bowl. And it's just, that is something that has progressed because of the fact that the unknown has become so unknown. That trying to find some sort of comfort has created a very big gap into, I wake up in the morning and I go to sleep, but what fills in the middle? And I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like that middle either speeds up to the point where you don't even realize the day's done. Or you're counting every minute. Because there's nothing to fill it because you don't know what the next minute is going to entail.
It's interesting because My on two levels. My personal experience has been uh, the isolation and things. I was, by the time COVID hit, was already familiar with being by myself, because
Right.
the previous year, you know, and all the work that I was doing then, I was
Exactly.
accustomed to being at home by myself. But I was I I didn't I didn't understand what COVID would do to the delivery of supplies and these sort of things. So it wasn't that the COVID and the isolation hit me in a way that it did other people, because I was already isolating. But
Mhm.
what did happen is that people bringing me, like, when, you know, from Walmart or from grocery stores or whatever, Amazon, bringing
Oh,
supplies to me became a huge issue. And I and it was twofold, because it was either the delivery companies were having problems or whatever, organizing and dealing with the influx of ordering. That was one part. But because I live in a condo, the condo put barriers out without telling me or other people who are disabled as I am and unable to leave their unit. So I was unaware that they had signs on the door prohibiting delivery people from entering the building. And I would just get, you know,
that's
no, I'm not
devastating.
coming
That's
up.
devastating.
And I was like, wait a minute, what do you mean you're not coming up? I paid extra to ensure that you would come up. And it was one gentleman who was, because like I say, this was a year-long practice for me. He was accustomed to coming to my door and knew about my disability, and said to them at the door, no, I have to bring this up. She can't come down for this. And when he came up, he was the one who told me about the sign being on the door down at the front. And I was like, oh, so you mean to say that the building is the thing that's stopping deliveries from coming in? It's not that you guys are just throwing things downstairs and refusing to come up.
You're not lazy.
Yeah, and so that took on a new level of battle um, for me in terms of the building. And then medical marijuana and getting that delivered was a huge challenge too, because the it became the same thing, and I started getting these you know, delivery agencies and so on and so forth, or you know, they would be like I don't know what to, they would be really rude and disrespectful and looking at the, oh, so you just need your, I'm like, listen, you have no right to know, number one, what I'm getting or why I'm getting it. And don't judge me because you see that is medical marijuana and you think you know me and you can treat me any kind of way. There was this whole barrier um, of judgment and discrimination attached to it being a medical marijuana supply. And the hostility on the other end of that was really quite, it was surprising. I'd never experienced that before. Did you experience any challenges with deliveries of marijuana or cannabis, or any issues in that regard?
When it came to my prescriptions, it was, it still is.
Yeah.
Getting to see my therapist is impossible. I haven't seen my therapist in over, oh my god, like 8 months. You can
Yeah.
almost see the devastation in my face. Um, it's it's very devastating. Um,
You
it's
don't
an
see a
outlet.
therapist? Do you do
So we were doing phone calls,
Oh,
and what happened was I had missed an appointment, but there's no way of knowing how to make another appointment.
oh,
So I don't know if we call, there's no information whether or not we leave messages, email, what have you. So I had just decided to email him and see if he responds. When
okay.
it came to my prescriptions, some of them are just regular prescriptions that you can get. Medica Connect, which is great, which was online. You can speak to someone face to face and get a prescription. But
Oh,
I do also take ones that are unauthorized in order for it to be just given by any doctor, and it has to be prescribed by a psychiatrist.
yeah.
And that is Vyvanse. And when that happens, I can't get my medication. The
Oh,
only way I can get it is through my therapist. And
okay.
I'd gone through, unfortunately to say, I did have gone through a relapse, and it was a withdrawal just due to the fact that I couldn't get my medication.
Yeah.
And I actually ended up going to Emerge
Okay.
and going to Emerge to get one of my medication because there was nothing else that I could do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it was sad. It was depressing. It was very sad to know that I could either be locked up because of the fact that I am so frantic
Yeah.
and am in so disarray, and I look as if I'm going through a withdrawal of drugs because unfortunately that's
Okay.
what medication does do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have to then justify the fact that I'm going through withdrawal due to my medication,
Absolutely.
not due to drugs.
Yeah.
And it's been tough. I've done that sadly twice, and it's not even withdrawal for a long period of time, but
Yeah.
for withdrawal for 3 days, it feels like hell.
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
you think you could do it. You keep telling yourself you could do it. You're like, no, it's just one day. Okay, no, I can wait another day. And it was a make or break it. It was a make or break decision.
Yeah.
And that's where I found my cannabis use. Like the more that I keep talking about it, the like of just like everything else, the more I'm just like, I need to just like hit a bowl. I need to just relax because cannabis has become more in my life.
Okay.
It has helped me way more. It is not even become a detriment to anything else. It has become a savior when it comes to me being able now to not only dive deeper into cannabis itself and read and do my own studies and kind of figure out what I want to do when it comes to my own personal regimens, but it's come to me understanding just how important it is for me to be actually able to consume and how important it is for me to be able to consume whenever I need to consume. And not to be banished for it and not to be looked at as someone as bad, because I feel there is this weird, stupid stigma around smoking weed, but I could talk about cannabis. And I don't think that is in any way any different. And I don't think in any way that is less professional if you see somebody utilizing their medicine as they're talking about their medicine, or having somebody be under the influence in order for them to get through their obstacle throughout the day. It's something that hasn't, I think has been almost sadly went backwards during COVID, because there was so much room for people to make kind of all these different niche things that were not needed. It was the fact that we needed to keep going and making cannabis free and okay and like not cool to see, but relaxing to see someone else consume in public, in social media, compared to the other way around, because it makes you almost shun yourself. That you're relying on now something that's a drug, but it's legal. How is it a drug? I should be able to do it however, whenever. But it still is and it sucks.
So as a result of COVID, and the inability or the inconsistency of getting your prescription mental health medication, your consumption of weed, cannabis, has increased to the point where you now rely on cannabis to help you stabilize your level of anxiety, your and these sort of things.
Everyday challenges. Like it's not gone overboard. That's what I want to make sure and stress. It hasn't gotten to the point where it is a detriment to my health or my life or the people who are surrounding me.
Yeah.
It has become more of a larger crutch than it was before. Yeah. Before I could go through conversations and not feel like I had to relax before I had that conversation.
Yeah.
Or that I needed to be able to hit a bowl before I went outside.
Yeah.
But it has now become something where it is, since I also don't do edibles, it is something that I do consume way more. And I am happy I'm consuming way more because it's eliminating some of the go-tos that I would be going to.
Okay.
If I didn't.
Yeah.
And if I wasn't able to consume the way that I want to.
Have you changed? So for me, I was taking the oil under my tongue, and and they tried this spray, which was really quite nonsense, but it's just foolishness. And
it doesn't
then this oil, there were different ways that they suggested to use since I came into experiencing the cannabis and this whole world, right? But since COVID, and just the awareness that it actually impacts the lungs and inhalation and these sort of things, I was looking for other ways than smoking to use the cannabis. And so I got I don't even remember what it's called, this little, a vaporizer, that's what it's called. I got a vaporizer, and started using it that way. So I wanted to ask you about the different, you're familiar with the oils. I don't do edibles either, because that thing that people have that tells them, that's enough. I don't have that. So,
right. I remember we had to say, it's the cutoff.
Yeah.
It's the cutoff.
And then they talk to me, you just need to titrate or learn how to microdose. Listen, I get the concept, but that's not that's not my reality.
I'm so happy that you said the concept. I'm so happy that you use concept, because that is what it is. There is so many concepts. There are so many varieties. There are so many ways in order to utilize, consume, smoke, whatever other word that we want to use to be able to describe getting it in our system. And it's not for everybody. And there are some that work better than others, and there are some that work worse than others. And I'm happy that you actually invested into a vaporizer, because a vaporizer is something that I personally find, in the beginning of me smoking and in the beginning of me in the industry, so that's now 8 years ago, vaporizers weren't necessarily cool. And I'm going to use the word cool, because that's when weed was still weed, and you were still a pothead, and those stigmas were still there. So I was still used to smoking. Mm-hmm. But I have found, especially re-entering, and I have found, especially now with COVID, especially now with my mental health kind of becoming a little bit more worse than it is. I do utilize now more devices than I did before.
Okay.
So I was a bong toker. I am a
Yeah.
bong toker.
Yeah.
That's for life, dearly. But when it comes to joints, spliffs, I don't necessarily do. And I don't because the fact of I don't like having to smoke something all the way down to the bottom. So as if you might have no like way of like ending, I do, and I can't with a spliff.
Okay.
So I never like relighting. So I'm also that person that likes to finish my bowls.
So it's the relighting piece that, so you wouldn't smoke it and put it out and then relight. Oh, understood.
I'm not okay. So I'm also not a germaphobe. I do love sharing, but that's why I actually do enjoy bongs. I love it because of the fact that it is personal. I'm someone that is a little bit of not a germaphobe, but I do have little tics that I notice that I have. And it's a lot when it comes to not germs, but more of just germs in a way. Yeah. So I don't necessarily like sharing bowls. And I mean, packing a bowl and then giving that bowl to somebody else to finish. Yeah. I think that is disgusting. That is like me drinking my backwash.
Like, in this COVID era, passing puff pass is dangerous.
Puff pass was always dangerous. It was just a cool thing to say.
Okay. Yes. Well, and that was the world that I grew up in, right? It was always puff pass, and so that I never even actually considered the danger in it before, but I definitely do now.
Right?
Never, the people with whom I would be doing that were people that I knew, like it would never be a random stranger. It's like,
exactly.
Right?
And the only thing you ever worry about is like a cough. Yeah. Or like, I don't want to catch your cold, so I'm just going to like rub the top of it. Or I'm going to like put my fingers on top of it and just smoke it like that. You're still getting the germs. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're already going to get sick.
But it's funny, those things never disturbed me before. But they definitely do now. Like I'm conscious of that now in a way that I was never before.
Yeah, I always have been. And it always have been just from when I started smoking, just because we all smoked from something called the billy, which was taking a stem, sticking in a water bottle and making a bong. Okay. And sometimes some people would like drool and you'd be like, ew.
No.
I don't want to take that. So then you would get the elbow rub on the top of the bong. And you would get the coners, and that's when I started realizing myself how I really don't like paper, and how I really didn't like sharing, but not sharing weed, just sharing the device that I have. Okay. And it's just weird. Like, hey, we wear the same shoes, but when it comes to my bongs, like, let me give you your own bong while you're here with me, so then we have our own pieces. Yeah. Because it just irks me.
Do you now use a vaporizer?
Yes, and I use a vaporizer, and I also use a wax vaporizer, which is a concentrate vaporizer. Basically, the difference. Vaporizer? So concentrate vaporizer. Oh. So it's the exact same concept of vaporizing, but it's just two different substances. So I tend to still be smoking my weed, but I am now vaping a lot more when it comes to my concentrates. And concentrates, how you can use them is from a rig, and you would use a flame in order to actually light the bowl up, and then that's how you would actually inhale. But I've always been scared of like torches, and I'm scared of a lot of the other nicks and crannies. So I've been able to use now more of the actual little boxes. So like a little like dab box. Okay. And with this, you would just basically load it up just like you would when it comes to your cannabis. And you would just stick it inside and make sure that you have whatever your potency is, and then light it and smoke.
Okay.
Which is great.
And you light it with a lighter, same way?
Just like that.
Okay. You light it with a lighter?
No, I just pressed the button. I did it with you.
Okay.
I just did a show and tell.
Yeah.
Without you knowing.
Not really into it, but that's okay.
Right?
So
but, yeah.
your ability then to manage your mental health, manage your sense of isolation, and manage the particulars of COVID was greatly enhanced by your understanding of and your appreciation of the weed and cannabis that you smoke.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's so funny that you said weed, because I actually went back to weed. I went back to just saying weed, because even the word cannabis just gets me like, because it just feels so, it just doesn't feel like me anymore. It's almost like COVID has given me time to really understand what I appreciated from the beginning.
Yeah.
Compared to what I was trying to appreciate.
Okay.
Which was this new and improved so-called industry when it was never what I wanted. I just wanted to smoke my weed.
Yeah.
And be happy. And everyone else around me be happy if that's what they wanted to do. And I found that was something that I am now working towards. I'm working more towards how to bring happiness when it comes to weed. Not money, not profit, not what everyone was caring about before COVID, because everyone lost their job. Every single person that was in your face, that was, I am better than you, that is, I have a title that's made up, is now no longer what they are. And they are just like how you are, if not, I don't want to say below, but back to where they started, because they were never somebody that was comfortable with just saying weed. And they're never comfortable with just smoking weed. And that's where you found recreational and medicinal become obsolete as words. And you found black market becoming something that was so bad, but I call it craft market. I call it now, it's the people that are in the industry that you're seeing that are creating the craft, that are creating what we're actually needing in this industry. Not knowledge. We don't need people just talking anymore. We don't need spokesmen. We don't need influencers. We need the people that actually know what they're doing in order to create the medicine that we need in order to keep going when it comes to pandemics and so forth. And I appreciate that. I am so happy that my mind has totally shifted from that, because that's what was important. It was important to find what was going to make people better, not make people richer.
Absolutely. Always the case. I'm still a cannabis girl. I just like, because it fits with Cato.
Of course. And I do have to say cannabis, because Debi Canna is like my other alter ego. So Debi is cannabis is cool, okay? Cannabis is cool. And also it sounds like Canada, so it's even cool.
You see? It works.
So I think it's just what some people have attached to the word cannabis. That had made it so sexy or so niche, sort of luxury, because it's a word. And
see, the interesting thing in which we discussed back in 2019 when all this started, I'm not an industry person. I didn't come by this to make money or to do any of that stuff. And I've never, regardless of what the industry is, whether it's about cannabis or psychotherapy or whatever, I've never been indoctrinated into the language of the industry just because that's just irrelevant to me. However, I appreciated, I just love the word cannabis because it fit with my name. And I like that word. But I can appreciate the fact that it's attached to an ideology that was born out of an influx of people who were coming into this space with the intentions of making money and sweeping away the knowledge and the wisdom and the expertise of the people, of the weed consumers that had been here forever and a day prior to their knowledge. And so I am aware of that dynamic, but I don't participate in it, if that makes any sense.
You made so much sense. And you actually, which is so funny, is that there's it's not sidetracking, but there is an article that just came out about the whole idea of people creating titles for themselves and creating these ways of segregating weed smokers and weed connoisseurs and weed enthusiasts with weed making money people.
Okay.
And it's funny how there are so many people that are disturbed about how the culture and the love and the respect has been diminished due to something that really and truly doesn't matter whatsoever, because it has nothing to do with what people have already been doing.
Yeah.
And that's why I always laugh, because I've smoked weed for 13 years and it's not going to stop. And I'm not going to all of a sudden just start calling myself something different, because then that would be me throwing away 13 years of smoking weed and starting anew with something else. So we are circling, I feel like we are circling back to what we were and what we are, which is a culture that does care about people and does care about our communities and does care about giving back and does want weed appreciated, because it wasn't. It was a fight to the fight of what? Drugs? Like, why are we fighting about drugs? And if no one wants to say it's a drug.
Sorry to cut you. It's interesting that in this year of COVID, what I discovered last year, I kept talking about this year being, because it's 2020, the year of clarity, right? And everything's going to make sense this year. And when COVID initially hit, I was like, oh, now, like, my God, all my thoughts and all my plans for this year have been washed away. But truthfully, clarity is this year. And things are coming to light that I can't, there's no other way that they would have come to light in this manner had it not have been the whole world stopping and being forced to stop. And I find that the same culling, the same reckoning that the cannabis industry is having is the same reckoning I'm seeing even in psychotherapy, and recognizing people who have been here doing the work and without that title. But then suddenly in came the demand for the title. And if you want to continue to do this work, you've got to get that title. And those sort of things have really changed the dynamic for both worlds that I actually walk in, whether it be cannabis and weed or psychotherapy. And it's really as a result of two things. One, that we've been speaking about in terms of COVID, and the other is the uprising and reckoning within the anti-Black racism and systemic barriers. And so I wanted to know, has the systemic barriers and anti-Black racism impacted the weed world at all, from your understanding?
No.
Okay.
It
Yeah.
is almost, I found what happened was we were already aged. People already wanted a Black person. They needed a Black person. They thought we were all token Black people,
Okay.
which isn't necessarily true.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's become more of, it's almost to me that I find it's more money versus ethics.
Money versus ethics?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's more of, will we make more money by contributing to this new era, this new way of life, by introducing more minorities within our concept? Or is it an ethical thing where they actually do see the problems and they actually do see the detriment and they actually are making those different moves? And they are integrating not just Black people, but all minorities that have not been showcased. Yeah. So that's why I use the whole ethics aspect of things, because with ethics, it's not even morals. It's not your own personal morals. It's the whole aspect of it as a whole. Yeah. And ethically, we should not have even been in this issue when it came to cannabis. Yeah. Ethically, we should have been doing something totally different. But that's not what this conversation is about. It's about, what are we going to do today, tomorrow, and the next day, ethically correct what we have done wrong by making this drug legal. Because this drug is now a legal drug for anybody, but yeah, it's still showcased as something that is being driven by minorities, yeah, in the incorrect way. Okay. But it's still being
What do you mean by that?
Incorrect way as in, we're still being defined as people that are in the Black market, that are running the Black market, that are unintelligent, that are unknowledgeable, that are unequitable, that are just are not the right fit, that are not the right part. Yeah. When I have to be honest with you, forget my race, but with the knowledge and background that I personally have on top of my race now, that just shows you that I am something that you are not what you have in mind. I am not what you think I am. Yeah. And that's what I found a lot of us are dealing with, especially my age and a little bit older. We're trying to really figure out how not to be racist. Mm-hmm. Because being racist is disgusting, and I'm using the word disgusting because it is. I've dealt with it when I was younger. I hadn't for more than 15 years, and then now it's like the last 2 years has been the most crazy, unruly way of interacting with human beings as a whole. Yeah. And I've noticed that the lack of accountability that flows through people's veins is crazy. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Because it's not like it's hidden. It's not like you can't see it. It's not like it's not fair. But it just rolls off their shoulder like it's nothing. Yeah, yeah. And before, I was never really into participating when it came into protecting my race, my personal self, because my racism that I dealt with was always different. I wasn't from America. I had never dealt with anything like that before, the extremities of that. But what had happened in the States, what now has happened, what has continued to happen, what is it continuing to happen here, which is now followed throughout the world, is despicable, but is going to be the greatest achievement that we will ever have.
Yeah.
Because nobody is letting this go.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there is a single person that can look at themselves in the mirror and not see someone that deserves more.
Mm-hmm.
And that has always deserved more.
Yeah.
And that is what I see. That is what I see. That is I see
Yeah.
in myself. I see in you.
Yeah.
I see in any other person that is Black, that is of the minority,
Yeah.
that is dealing with the bullshit, I'm sorry for my language, that they have been dealing with. Because it is our time now to be recognized for what we do.
Yeah.
Which is greatness. We're great people.
Yeah.
And it's sad that the world had to watch someone die.
Yeah.
I think, no, I don't think I know that will traumatize me for the rest of my life.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'd never watched it. I can't. I would never ever watch that. I know the limits of my capacity, and watching somebody that's not an option for me. I could not. And so I've never watched that video, or to be honest, any of the videos where our people were being slaughtered and shot, or snuffed out in whatever manner white supremacy decided they were going to take us out.
Exactly.
I've never entertained those videos because I understand the impact of vicarious trauma and trauma. I'm not subjecting myself to that.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I actually never knew.
Many people have. I don't say that to slight anybody who has. I'm just speaking from my knowledge of self. And so that's what stopped me. Hang on one sec. Just one sec. Okay. So thanks for giving me that moment to pause. Tell me a little bit then about the impact of watching the video. I know what it was like for me and the choice I made to not watch it. How did it impact you watching it?
So it was actually kind of weird and different in like some point, because I remember I have seen traumatic videos before. And I remember, like, even when we were younger, 9/11 happened, we all had to watch that. But when it came to actually watching this gentleman literally die, it wasn't something that you could not watch. It wasn't something that you could just skip. And it wasn't something that you could blur out. And that was the disturbing part for me. And that was what I can't get out of my mind, because every other incident that you see, they could always blur it out. They could blur out the shooting. They could blur out the person. They could blur something. Something's going to be blurred out. Any traumatic, like I listen to crime podcasts all the time. I could listen to that. I can't. I've gone through my parents. I've seen dead bodies before. But it was the fact of there was no way, and there is no way, for TV to digitally remaster something that you cannot blur out.
Yeah.
You could blur it out. You blur out the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's no point in showing it.
Yeah.
But you have to show it. Mm-hmm. And it's sad because there is no other way to show it. Mm-hmm. There's no way to explain it.
Yeah.
Because it happened. You're watching 8 minutes and 39 seconds, and you don't know why you're watching it. But you're watching it because you're thinking there's going to be a better end.
Yeah, yeah.
You're not thinking that's the end. You're not.
Yeah, yeah.
Even if someone tells you that's what happened.
Yeah.
You're not going to fathom it. And you're not going to say that's how it happened.
Yeah,
you're not.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be honest with you. It actually took me to watch it twice to understand what I had just watched.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it was, even talking about it, it just doesn't make sense because it will always be implanted in my memory.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter what you read about so-called what he did, it was over nothing, just like every other incident. But we were so lucky. And he was such an angel to fight for the right for us to all understand what was going on. And to lose his precious life for that to happen. Because that's how I look at it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't say that any other person that has gone through any racism and has lost their life, and any family that is going through now the repercussions of what the police have done is any more or less than this. But this is the one and only time that we can all agree that we had to watch something that could never be blurred out.
It's interesting because my at the time I was taking this course called Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome with Dr. Joy DeGruy. And when George Floyd was murdered in this manner, and honestly, I say murder, but truthfully, he was executed.
He was executed. He was executed.
He was publicly executed.
There was no guillotine. There was just no guillotine. Like that's all was missing.
And so when that happened, up until this point, anytime we saw a police murder, we'd see it at best from body cameras. We'd see, the incident or what have you. But in this incident, we saw the individual being executed, but we were, as he was being executed, looking into the eyes of the executioner. And that's the thing that made this difference in the way that the public consciousness received it, because there was no way at that point to say, I was afraid for my life, or there's no excuse. We watched your eyes as you intentionally snuffed out the life of this other human being, and that's what caused the uproar and the global cry. At least that's how Dr. Joy DeGruy had interpreted this video, and I tend to agree with her. Given, number one, I've never seen it, because I do know that concept of not being able to unring a bell or squeeze the toothpaste back into the tube. Once you've seen it, it's immediately and permanently seared into your mind's eye and your internal consciousness. It becomes a part of you, and I just didn't want that to be a part of me in that manner. But in all of this, to bring it back to the thing that brought us here, which is CATO'S Cannabis Chronicles.
I know. I just went like so down, just like as you get to certain, you're like, I know I can't uninstill it. And I'm like, thank you, Kimberly. It is sadly instilled, but it's. I think I just want to quickly just say that I am happy that I was brave enough to watch it. I will be thankful for the rest of my life that I did see that, because I experienced racism to the extent of what racism can be. I know what someone can do if they don't like you. And it's scary and it's mind-blowing, but it's something now that I'm well aware of is real. I'm no longer gullible.
Yeah.
But what I never wanted to admit was something that actually did affect me.
Mm-hmm.
So I now am not only, and was always a proud Black woman,
Mm-hmm.
but I am a proud Black woman that is going to be fighting for the rights of every other Black person out there
Yeah.
that deserves every single bit of respect,
Yeah.
especially when it's been given to others.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not saying that I'm going to high five every Black person. That's not what I'm saying here. That's not what I hope most people are not agreeing on.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the fact that it's about showcasing who and how and where these changes are being made,
Mm-hmm.
and who they're being changed by,
Yeah.
and what they're doing to make it happen.
Excellent. Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
And that was my world changed at that moment. Like, as much as he snuffed out that life, he that moment gave birth to the life of this movement. And in a multitude of ways, I am grateful for the awakening, and I applaud this new era of reckoning, because there is no pushing that toothpaste back in the tube. And
I love the way, I love that. Sorry.
it's okay. There is like, from north, south, east, and west, people have been called to this moment to rise up and make change. Not ask for change, not beg for change, not demand change, not articulate change in a way that makes everybody comfortable. We are taking it. Change is now. It's not an option. It's not a negotiation. This is the time for change. Full stop, end of story. And that moment is what gave birth to this. And so I see it. I see it in the cannabis weed industry. I see it in the psychotherapy industry. I see it in the industry of medicine. I see it in legal standpoints. I see it within the correctional system. Everywhere you see the uprising and the change happening now. And that's the thing that it's really exciting to me. It's really pivotal and exciting to me.
You're seeing the intelligence,
Yeah.
almost literally explode.
Yes.
And you're surprised at yourself and everyone else around you that had that same knowledge, same explosive meaning and ethics and morals that you had. But what divided you was the chance to meet.
Yeah.
The reason to meet.
Yeah.
The obligation to meet.
Yeah.
And that is what now I know. I'm sorry. I thank you, world, but we're going to do our due diligence and make sure that we do exactly what we know what to do.
Yeah.
And we will not be looked upon as someone that can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we can and we will.
Yeah.
And we'll demonstrate and show.
Yeah.
And we'll achieve and conquer.
Exactly. It's interesting because I see a number of different things kind of converging together, because in this hour, as you know, the whole world is actually rising up, while at the same time we're in that social distancing as a result of COVID era. It's opened a new world for us to be communicating en masse through Zooms and YouTube and all people that I would otherwise not have had the opportunity to engage with. I'm actually able to say, oh, let's just get on a Zoom call and have a chat. Even to the point of being able to speak with my professor at like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, just saying, listen, can we chat about it? And being able to pop on a Zoom call and do that. Somebody who is, in Australia and I'm here in Canada and we still connect. Yeah, I'm halfway across the world from you, but let's hit Zoom at this hour and connect. I think that has made this moment so dynamic and pivotal, and which is why the change, it's not optional, and it's not specific to Canada or the US.
No.
It's global, and that's what's so extraordinarily powerful about all of this.
And you stating the whole Zoom and us being able to do our 1 year.
Yeah.
It has instilled, I'm going to be honest, a boost of confidence for myself.
Excellent.
To want to not only continue, for
Yeah.
us to continue
Yeah.
CATO'S Cannabis Chronicles, but it be instilled now with the development of what we are going to be becoming.
Yeah.
And what we are aiming for.
Excellent.
Not the knowledge that we already have.
No.
Not the expertise from others that we don't necessarily need, that is not going to be something that's beneficial.
Yeah.
It is about how infused people that are infused with knowledge and power, and not power over people, power over themselves.
Yeah.
And righteousness and morals and ethics.
Yeah.
And how cannabis and life and them all relate as a whole.
Yeah.
And how that continues and will continue to benefit people.
Excellent.
Because that's what I care about.
That's it.
That's my 2020. That's my whole new thing.
Yeah.
Because starting alone, but creating a family within myself is going to allow me to continue in life.
Yeah.
And that is dealing with mental health and my mental wellness.
Yeah.
And it's admitting that I'm a proud Black woman who deals with mental health.
Yes.
And it does not make me achievable, unacquittable, unvaluable.
Yes. Yeah. It doesn't diminish your value in any way, shape, or form.
Own everything that we are. We have wonderful tans. Look at our tans. No tanning beds ever. No, we can't get the little Playboy bunny. I know it's depressing, but we are beautiful and we are awesome. Yeah. And we have to just continue to demonstrate the fact that we are not what others may depict us as.
It's funny because I just finished an episode with a lady about identity, really. And so often we took our identity from others. It was either we are, I'm not an angry Black woman, or I'm not, this thing that you say I am. But we were always working off of somebody else's definition of who we are. Mm-hmm. And I'm done with that. Like, I don't, you can think what you want about who I am. I really don't care. I'm defining myself. This is who I am. I will define me. And I will live fully in the entire essence and excellence of who I am. And you can like it, or you can hate it, or you can take it and you can leave it. Is irrelevant to me. What's most important is that I fully flourish in the fullness of who I am, and as I have defined me. And insofar as I'm authentically able to do that, I empower others around me to do the same.
Exactly.
And when we all stand in the fullness of our inner excellence, That's what the world needs to see. That's the thing that makes the change. Because we refuse to be defined by anybody else.
And that's what helps. And you just saying that speech, I've realized that is what is going to align back my multiple personalities. It's going to start defining on who I am.
Yeah.
And I've always been.
Yeah.
Because I noticed I've been lost. And I've noticed that throughout life, it's a lot easier to adapt personalities in order to stay an obstacle. And especially being a growing Black person that's still growing, your depiction of life is always forever different.
Yeah, yeah.
But I feel in my heart now that my personalities will align.
Yeah.
And they will be able to define themselves as a one person.
Yeah.
That has different ways of thinking.
Yes.
But aren't different people, because those people are still Black. But they'll never, ever, ever be able to be proud about it. Other than when I'm just original Debi.
Yeah,
and that's what I notice, and that's what I love, is being that Debi versus any other.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Oh, I love this. Every time. I'm sorry. I'm like fighting back tears. It's just a real breakthrough that I feel that in the beginning we created, but weren't noticed.
Yeah.
And today is the start of something where being noticed isn't the forefront.
Yeah.
It's being recognized.
Yeah, yeah.
For what the future that we're able to do holds.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. On that note, my sister, thank you so much for honoring this 1-year anniversary of the birth of CATO'S Cannabis Chronicles and the rebirth and the rebirth of Debi Facey and Kimberly Cato. Bless you, sweetie.
Bless you and love you lots, and thanks everybody for watching.
Right on.
Peace.
Hey, can you do me a favor? Can you ring the bell? Can you subscribe to this channel? Can you share this message with friends and family? Let them know. Black therapists speak. Bye now.